My boyfriend used to be loving and present, but now he's a workaholic who only has eyes for a promotion, and it feels like I'm dating his career while I watch our love quietly die. My boyfriend Jake, 29M, and I, 29F, had been together for 9 months, living together for 6 of them. We've known each other for a year and a half. As I write this, he's been at work for 50 hours and counting. He was supposed to come home for an hour last night to refresh, but he didn't show. I don't know if this difference in values is something that can be overcome. I've always known that Jake has ambition and drive. It attracted me to him. I respect that he is a hard worker and will do what needs to be done to get where he wants to go. The problem is, when we got together, he was working a job where he didn't see a future. Shortly after we moved in, he got a new job where he anticipates growth. Everything, and I mean everything, changed. His job uses him. He works shift work, and he's constantly put into situations where he's set up to fail. They have an event coming up, which has resulted in him working something like 25 days in a row, voluntarily, including this current 50-hour stretch. If you have to work, with no overtime pay, for over 50 hours straight to be successful, you shouldn't be in that job. That's my very strong opinion. When we started dating, our sex life was great. Then it crashed and burned to nothing. When I've expressed this, he's accused me of thinking sex is everything or thinking that everything is always going to be perfect. We've had sex once or twice in the last 3 months. He tells me it's because I don't initiate, which I'm working on, but how do you initiate when your partner is always exhausted, or at work, or feeling sick because he's at work so much that all he eats is junk? We don't sleep in the same bed. He sleeps on the couch every single night because he wakes up early and goes to bed late, if he's at home. I've asked him to share a bed with me. That's happened once in the last 2 months. Anytime I bring anything up, he gets so defensive. I don't know how to get around that. I get made to feel guilty for not supporting him. And you know what? No, I don't support him anymore. I think he's making terrible decisions for himself and for us. I tried to support him for a long time and wound up giving all of myself and feeling unvalued and unwanted. While I was supporting him, when I brought up my concerns, in a nice way, honestly, it all got turned around on me. When he wasn't a workaholic, we were fantastic. We still have our moments. I thought he was the one, everything was different with him. He warned me that when he started his new job, he would work a lot of hours, but I didn't anticipate this. I feel like my own boyfriend doesn't want me. Sex is huge to me. I've been in a sexless relationship before, and I don't want that. I feel like he devalues it so that he doesn't have to try or feel guilty. My biggest concern is that every time he finishes one mountain at work, something else is thrown at him. Will this ever change? Even when he gets promoted, I'm sure it'll happen, his work will be similar. I love him. I love him as a person. I hate the decisions he's making and the lifestyle he's choosing for himself and for us. I get working hard, I do. I just don't know if I can handle this. Has anyone been in a situation like this before? Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this? My coping right now is basically to not give a crap about what he's doing or what he's up to, but then I start crying that that's what my relationship has become. I think it's ridiculous that he's been at work for over 2 days, but at the same time, I don't care. Has anyone been through anything like this before? /relevant comments. Commenter. You guys do not seem like you're sexually or emotionally compatible anymore. Have you tried communicating everything you've told us to him? I would consider getting couples counseling together. Also, 50 hours with no sleep? When he does sleep, it's on the couch. Lack of sex? I had to plant the seed, but are you positive he is working? Ops response. I've communicated on several occasions. He strongly dislikes these talks, and it usually ends up being turned back on me. For example, sex isn't everything, or the one person who's supposed to support me, doesn't. I even got, you think sex is more important than the relationship. I've tried approaching nicely, and I've had my moments where it just hit me all at once and I burst. I understand that he's tired all the time, and having a nagging girlfriend doesn't help. Once, he blew up at me because I asked him to rinse some dishes. But that means there is never an appropriate time to him to have these conversations. He did initiate sex on Valentine's Day, though, and then used that later as a reason why I can't say I'm unsatisfied with our sex life. And yes, I'm positive. I get Snapchats and pictures from work sometimes during these stretches. I honestly don't know how he's alive right now. Commenter 2. Yikes, girl. You know how people say relationships rely on communication? That's actually true. Otherwise, you have a problem, and it's just your problem. If you won't listen or care about your feelings, then you have to live with things just the way they are because there's no other recourse. Ops response. There have been times when he's shown he listens. He just doesn't in the moments when I'm trying to talk. Some actions afterwards show he's heard and is trying, like washing some dishes, complimenting me a bit more, and honking my boobs. I appreciate the effort to show he notices me. But this is also the only relationship I've been in where we'll have an argument, he'll leave the room in the middle, and he went 3 days without attempting any communication. I sent a few texts and left some notes, but didn't go overboard because he's been upset before if we have a fight and I send a text like everything's good. But he doesn't like fighting over text either. And we went 3 days without seeing each other because of his work. When I write it out, it seems like such a mess. He's a good guy, he really is. But this is very unhealthy, isn't it? Commenter 3. You've been dating this guy for 9 months. 3 of them, before you lived together, were great. The rest of the time, 2/3 of the time you've been dating and all of the time you've lived together, you've been unhappy and unsatisfied. And, based on your description, he is uninterested, unwilling, or outright hostile about your attempts to communicate with him about your dissatisfaction. The purpose of dating is to find out if you're right for each other. You've spent more time with him unhappy than happy, and the longer you stay together, the unhappier you become. Newsflash, you have found out he's not the right guy for you. Don't bother with counseling, he's showing you every day how he is. Don't try to change him. Just end it and find someone you are actually compatible with. This relationship has taught you that you're not compatible with a workaholic. This is great, now you know that about yourself, carry on. Ops response. Good way of describing it. That's what I'm concerned about. I guess I'm just having a tough time internally separating the version of him when he's well rested and spends time with friends from the version of him who's overworked and exhausted, and saying that who he really is the overworked and exhausted guy. It's like when he's satisfied in his life outside of work, he's unsatisfied at work, and vice versa. And maybe I'm seeing where his priorities lie. Commenter 3. Maybe you'd be better off as friends. Then you could enjoy his company when he's well rested and unstressed, like his other friends do. If you'd been together for 10 years and this behavior was new in the last 6 months with a new job, I could see investing time in counseling, etc. But this is a new relationship, and he's acted this way for most of your relationship. I don't see the benefit in investing work here. Dating is like taking a relationship for a test drive. If this were a car you were test driving, would you buy it? You liked it in the parking lot, but it turns out you don't like the way it handles on the road. Do you look under the hood and tinker with the engine? No, you thank the dealership for the opportunity to try it out, give back the keys, and walk away. No hard feelings, you tried it out, and you're just not right for each other. Walk away. Ops response. Thank you for your advice. Update 5 days later. We broke up. One night at 7 o'clock, he woke up after another incredibly long shift, and I was crying. I said that I thought we might be incompatible with our lifestyles and priorities. That I wanted to make it work, if we could find a way, but we seemed so different. After going out for a smoke, he came back and started looking up rental apartments on his computer. Right in front of me. Without saying a word. I called him out on it. Asked him what kind of person does that without even saying a word to their girlfriend. He told me I'd already made the decision that we didn't work, that our lifestyles were too different. I told him that no, I said I wanted to make it work. I asked if he had any solutions. He said nothing. I asked if I was always going to be the only person to come up with solutions, because that puts a lot of pressure on me. He said, no, I get it, you feel like I don't exist, you're making me feel like crap, I get it. I kept emphasizing that I wanted to find a way to make it work. He asked me what I would do if things got worse. He asked, what would you do, cry every day and yell at me? That's when I told him I was done. I was done being the bad guy for having feelings. I was done being the only person trying. I was done being blamed for everything, from lack of sex, my fault for being so terrible with how I initiate, to me beating him home on my birthday. Apparently I left work early so he couldn't have my present ready. Even though I didn't, and I wasn't remotely upset about it. And we're done. He's moved out. I'm devastated but also relieved. I'm not always wondering when my boyfriend is going to be home, and how I can make our time count. I'm not always wondering if we're going to work out, because I know we won't. Despite crying a lot at work today, I feel lighter. I feel more optimistic. I desperately miss how we were when he wasn't working all the time. But that was so long ago, it feels like that relationship already died. I want to thank everyone for their advice. We just weren't compatible, and you were right. It wasn't just the work life that was doing it. It was the inability to communicate. I deserve better than being accused of making him feel like crap anytime I express an emotion other than joy about being with him. I'm proud of myself. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He honestly cannot communicate or handle a mature, adult relationship. You are better off without a person like that because if he can't handle this conversation, when you were trying to communicate, then he is not worthy of your love or your time. You were committed to him and willing to work with him on making your relationship work. He was, and still is, committed to work, and that relationship got all his time and energy. You just got the leftovers. Ops response. Yep, I didn't once get a suggestion, throughout this whole saga, of what he, or even what we, could do to make things better. Not once did he fight for us. It was always just that I had to get used to it. No thanks. Commenter 2. You sound so much like me back in July, after I broke up with my partner of 3 years. He was also a workaholic. There were maybe 2 total weeks per year when he wasn't working under some deadline. But that wasn't the issue was he plainly didn't care about how he was making me feel. At least your ex was straightforward about his disdain. Mine would do a great job acting like he cared and wanted to do better, but after a bit, he'd forget to keep up the act. Only when I stopped believing him did he start acting like your ex, trying to suggest that I was the problem and that I was doing him wrong. I wish my ex had been as blatantly uncaring as yours. I would have left so much sooner, no matter how much I still love the pre-workaholic version of him. Be thankful your ex showed his true colors so early. Ops response. This is true, better 9 months in than 10 months in, let alone 3 years. I'm sorry that happened to you. It takes a lot of strength to leave that far in. Commenter 3. There have been times when he's shown he listens. He just doesn't in the moments when I'm trying to talk. I just can't. That, along with the boob honking, her self-esteem set her expectations so low, and he still managed to walk under the bar. Commenter 4. I hope the boyfriend feels it's worth it, otherwise, what is the freaking point? Honestly, the job will never love you back. The boss wouldn't even pat you on the back if you're upset about the breakup. They're just going to tell you to stop crying. They want the new memo on their desk.